Okay, so today I wanted to ask one of the masters of marketing about his opinion on Google Ads. Oh, I can feel the blood boiling when I bring up Google Ads. So expensive. So Jay, what makes a successful Google Ads campaign for lawyers?
Wow, that's a huge question, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Google Ads are ridiculously expensive because they're worth it. One of the things that you have to recognize is that in today's modern legal economy, or really any economy, the consumer is looking for an instant result. And if you don't have brand awareness in your community, or you don't have as wide of a brand name as you would like, or your potential customer isn't within that community itself, they may not know who you are. Just like, 20, 30, 40 years ago, lawyers would be advertising in the yellow pages. Those were hot prospects, people who were looking for a lawyer to solve their problem. Now people go to the internet, they go to Google, they type in the type of lawyer that they're looking for, and those are hot prospects for you. And of course, now, I started Google advertising in 2002. I was paying 2, 3, 4, 5 cents a click. Now I'm paying hundreds of dollars for a click. My tracking of that has become much better. I know when clicks are turning into cases and turning into clients. So the tools have gotten better. It's a quick way to bankrupt, truly, if you're not paying attention to the details. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from this conversation is that Google Ads are worth it. They are expensive, and they require somebody who's a pro monitoring it. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and I know the system as well as any novice can. But really, to get the best bang for the buck, it's important to bring in a professional whose focus is on Google Ads and paid advertising online.
Right. And it's something, and I want to hear your thought on this. I'm writing a book called The Law Firm PPC Manifesto or Bible. I haven't decided yet. And one of the biggest problem that I think really exists in law firm marketing in general, but especially can be applied to Google Ads, is what I call the customization curve. And what this means is the lower the budget a lawyer has, or any business owner has, the more customization and creativity they need to get an ROI. Whether that's some weird method of bidding on arbitrage keywords, like even some people do like competitor keywords, or even just town name plus the word lawyer, these super cheap keywords, or going after very specific long tails with a lower cost per click. My theory is that one of the biggest problems in small business and or law firm marketing is that the people with the smallest budgets need the most customization, but they can't afford to hire the experts to implement that customization. The big firms are the only firms that can afford to waste money on non-targeted advertising. So I feel like the problem why so many lawyers and small business owners in general are dissatisfied with their marketing company is because they settle for a low price automated provider of services, and they don't get the results they need because it's not customized or creative. Would you agree with that as being a big problem?
I would absolutely agree. And what I have found for years of doing this is that a lot of people will spend a lot of money on the setup of their campaign. And they think that the way to succeed in paid advertising online is the old set it and forget it. The problem is that just like our metrics change of the types of cases that we want and the type of areas we want to focus, these platforms are changing. They're changing annually, and there's almost changing quarterly, and to some extent, they're changing monthly. So if you don't invest in building your plan and have constant looking at it and going back and making tweaks, I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, I've lost a ton of money in situations where we had turned a campaign off and forgot to turn it back on. And it sounds so simple, but I went 3 months and then I said, oh crap, I haven't logged in and I turned that off. Oh my God, no wonder call volume is down. So you really do need somebody whose focus is that in order to get the best out of it. And I want to take exception to one thing that you said. Nobody, not even the big firms, have money to waste, right? Money to waste is a fallacy, because if I'm spending money and not getting something for it, it means another area of either my personal profit, my operations, building my business, building my brand, or other types of marketing is losing out. And I'm not in the business of losing any type of money. Even as big as I've gotten, and I'd like to get bigger, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I say, well, that was just lost money. Now, I will tell you that whenever I get into a new area, I will devote a certain budget to sort of my tuition, right? My costs. I call it my tuition. If I go out to Las Vegas, I'll bring $1,000 and I say, I want to learn Baccarat. And my $1,000 that I'm willing to bring there and spend, that's my tuition to learn the game. And then after that, I don't go in looking to lose anymore. You can decide to put a little money into any sort of pay-per-click advertising and call it your tuition, but you're better served going to the university, getting a teacher, getting someone to help you, not only set it up, but not set it and forget it, but really monitor what you're doing and constantly tweak and add things and take away things to make you perform well.
This is a question that always goes through my mind. So I want to ask you, I believe a disease that spreads throughout, it's an infectious disease within the lawyer community and all small business owners. I call it AJS, and that stands for Agency Jumping Syndrome. And I think that it's this constant belief that small business owners have that if they just cancel with whoever they're currently working with, and maybe someone else will have the black magic secret. So let's sign up with them. Let's give them 3 months. Let's see if it were up. Not black magic. Let's cancel that. Let's lose all of our data. Let's start a new Google ad account or a new marketing initiative on their platform, not owning any of the data. And let's just keep jumping. And it creates this constant search for black magic, like ROI.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
You know, that's one of the biggest challenges we have as lawyers is that, you know, we don't necessarily think in terms of being marketers that it's a long-term play. I've ran into colleagues who said the same thing. You know, I did 3 months with them. They didn't do anything. So I jumped to another project. And I've been through 9 different providers in the last 5 years, and I can't find the one. I mean, the reality is there's no such thing as a magic wand. Good, effective pay-per-click takes time. Of course, you can start getting clicks early on with broad key phrases or keyword combinations in a generic car accident lawyer, but those may not necessarily be the right type of clients for you. I see lawyers bidding on the word lawyer. Now, these are guys who have, and women who have huge budgets that they're just pouring into a key phrase that really has very broad applicability and doesn't necessarily match with the type of clients that they're looking for. They're being served poor client experience, and other people try to niche down so hard they're not getting enough click-throughs, and that's one of the biggest problems is that they're not letting their provider sort of get a sense of, okay, hey, we've been doing this for a month. Where's your volume? Is it up? Is it down? Are you seeing particular calls? And that's one of the good things about having a pay-per-click provider agency that actually works with you, because they're actually looking for that feedback and seeing what's working and what's not working and making real-time adjustments. Just like you could do real-time bid adjustments at campaigns of a certain level, you can have people that are actively involved in your campaign, tweaking things month over month over month. And so what happens in January will impact what's happening in December. But if you cancel in March, your December never is going to come. So really, that's you don't want to change your horse midstream. Commit to somebody, you vet them first, and once you've seen their work on other people, you've seen what they've done for other clients, you know that they have the abilities, and then let them sit back and do it. You know, you're not going to build a house and you expect it to be done in a day, just like you're not going to build a pay-per-click. And quite frankly, we're not selling widgets. We're lawyers that are in our communities for decades. So you can spend some time, and really develop the relationship with somebody that's going to last a long time, that's profitable for everybody.
Great point. And I want to hear your thoughts on this belief that I think a lot of the bigger firms have about keeping it in-house. And one thing I've always juggled with is, where is DIY a losing formula and where is DIY a winning formula?
Well, that's a really tough question because, in reality, a lot of us lawyers have a tendency to micromanage. By the nature of our profession, we like to get into the weeds of whatever it is that we do. So, and we obviously have the intellectual capacity to understand the logic behind pay-per-click advertising. We could read what's a quality score and how bidding works and how the auctions work and that type of thing. So we have a little bit of understanding. at least the ones that are knowledgeable enough to take the time to say, okay, if I'm going to be spending 10 or 50 or $150,000 a year or more on pay-per-click, I want to know a little bit about what I'm spending my money on. But there comes a time where it's better to push it to somebody who can focus. Quite frankly, there's a reason why NFL teams have an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and a head coach. You can't be everything to everyone at all times. And so you need to make a decision. Now, there's a lot of lawyers out there who after 20, 30 years in their practice say, I really like the marketing end of the business. I like signing up the new clients. And so they want to focus on that. But that may not necessarily mean that they have the actual daily knowledge necessary to effectively run a campaign. And so there comes a point where you have to really just look and say, I'm going to take a step back and so I can get other people involved to do the thing. You don't see Bill Belichick out there running post routes, to try to catch a touchdown. He knows where his value is, and he hires the pieces to get the best results on the field.
So, and I completely agree with that. I think you need eyeballs and accountability on every portion of your marketing, which then leads to my next question, which is budget allocation. This is such a hard concept. And the thing that always scares me is when we get reached out to by lawyers. You deal with a lot of lawyers with FirmFlex, your social media agency. And what always concerns me is when people reach out to us looking for, like I said, the black magic solution. And the reason that scares me is because sometimes it seems as though they're going to push all of their chips into one platform. And I always think to myself, how can I create a way where people who reach out to us think through their budget allocation? So how do you think through budget allocation? Is there a certain percent in your gut you like to feel like 15% of your budget's going towards Google, 20% towards social? Like, how do you think through that?
So the way I approach it, especially when it comes to pay-per-click, is that I'm looking for a 5 to 6 times return on my investment. So what I'll do is I'll look historically what I've spent in the preceding 3 months. I'll look at what I've spent. I'll look at what I've generated in my new clients income-wise. And I try to stay in that 5 to 6 range so that I know I'm getting a return on my investment. I've had months where it's been 10 to 1. I've also had months where it's been 2 to 1. So we look to see where the bleed is in those months where it's 2 to 1. We look to see where the gains were on those months where it's 10 to 1. But I try to stay in the 5 to 6 range, and that's really what's worked for me for my firm. Because if I'm spending that, I know I'm getting money back out of it. I'm getting profit. I'm getting money to afford to serve the people who are contacting us by hiring other attorneys to do the work, and myself doing some of the work. So that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for a significant amount of return, but not so much that I'm looking for one case that's going to blow it out of the water. Of course, there are some lawyers that do those catastrophic type cases. That one case they could invest $100,000 in getting, but it returns millions of dollars in legal fees. That's not the type of model that I have in my practice. So I'm not looking for that. But if you're looking for that, you could spend $100,000 easily on pay-per-click in a very short amount of time. But if you get that one client, it's all been worth it.
So it's funny because we run very large birth injury campaigns, and it's so funny. The expectations in that niche of personal injury are like, yeah, we just want 1 or 2 cases a year. And it's so funny. We have a firm that spent maybe $50,000 last year on ads, and they hit their goal. They pulled in 2 cases that they think have the viability to have a 7-figure verdict, and they probably only got maybe 15 legit leads over the course of a year, and they're ecstatic.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, they're getting viable leads that fit their profile of the type of client that they want. Mm-hmm. You have other things, like for us, we have a speeding ticket niche. That's a high volume niche. It's a high volume niche, low dollar, but we're trying to get to the point where we're getting that 5 to 6 return on our investment. Right now, we're getting about 3 because we're doubling down and investing more in brand building and trying to get our name out there as much. And we understand that that's going to be something that's going to take a few years to build. But if you've got an established thing, if you could get, if you could turn around and get a case worth $3 million to you in net proceeds, and you had to spend $100,000 to get it, spend that $100,000 every week. If it meant that every week I was getting a $3 million case, that's a no-brainer. I mean, the cost per acquisition on that is minimal compared to what your upside is.
Especially when you compare it to referral fees.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're not giving up that piece back to the originating lawyer.
Absolutely. So back to the question on budget allocation. I understand the ROI multiple you look for between 5 and 6, but what about Google Ads in the whole portfolio of your other marketing pushes?
So personally, here in our office, we spend 50% of our money on our Google Ads.
Wow.
So overall, our marketing budget involves 50% of the spend in marketing goes towards Google Ads. 25% goes to social brand building. We're a lot more socially aggressive than many other law firms, so we spend a significant amount of money on social, on sponsored posts and content for that. And then the other 25% is a combination of content creation that's for organic SEO, a little bit of link building, and some offline stuff that we do. So really, we are at least 50% every year. And my credit card statements prove it. But one of the wonderful things about spending on pay-per-click, when you can pay it off every week as you're getting banged with those charges, I have an awful lot of hotel points coming to me and airline points. I don't think I've paid for a hotel room in a couple of years. I mean, like 6 or 7 years since I've paid for a hotel room for me and my family when we travel, because it's one of the benefits of being self-employed. And spending a lot of money to Google, and comparatively, I'm not sending much to Google compared to some of the other people that are out there spending. I'm spending a couple $100,000 a year, but there are people who are spending them millions a month. So they're happy to take my money. I'm happy to give it because of the return I get.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, for us, we spent I think around $200,000 last year on Google Ads, and same thing. It's not only for my flights and hotels; it's the whole team. I'm actually bringing the whole team to Vegas for a trip, most of which is paid from our Google ad points, which you get a 4x multiple on with your Amex. So
it's awesome.
I definitely agree with that. So in terms of thinking, let's talk about mindset with Google Ads. I always say that there's 2 types of attorneys that reach out to us, or even business owners. There's one category is people who need to be sold on the philosophy of Google Ads. And then there's people who have already made their mind up. This is an investment we will make unless something dramatic happens in terms of changes on Google. We don't need to sell them on the philosophy of Google Ads. We have to educate them on what we do that's different. So there's the philosophy shift market, and then there's the people who already had that shift and just want a better mousetrap. And how did you transition to the category where this is a cost of doing business, you will do it, and you're just going to find the best way to do it, versus these other attorneys and business owners that just are like constantly on and off about paying for marketing in general? It's like a commitment problem. So what puts you in the category where you've put your flag in the ground and said, we're doing this?
So about 20 years ago now, I was out with a couple colleagues, lawyers from Massachusetts, Texas, Oklahoma, and Southern California, and we're all out to dinner together. And one of the ideas came up. We were just trying to figure out how to get more work. And so we were together for about a week, and every time we went to a restaurant for lunch or for dinner, we would call the wait staff over. And we would say, listen, we're DUI lawyers. We have a question for you. One of your friends has gotten a DUI, and they turn to you and they say, my life's a mess. I need help. What would you do to help them find a lawyer for their DUI case? And inevitably, I'd say 95% of the wait staff returned with, well, I would take out my phone, or I'd look up on a computer. At that time, it was looking up on your computer. And I would search on Google for DUI lawyer. And so it went off that the modern world is search first, right? They're not necessarily going to their friends, their neighbors, their family members, especially for what I do, because it's kind of embarrassing, right? You don't want to necessarily talk to other people that you're facing this type of charge. And the anonymity of being able to search at home on your own and do some research meant that that's where my consumers were going. And so after that, we literally just sat down and said, if this is where people are going, we have to be ubiquitous. And then as we build our brand name, those people that are willing to talk will get us referrals. And 50% of our business comes every year from referrals from prior clients because they know that they've gone through this. And after they've gotten out on the back end, they've told their friends and they said, I had this great lawyer. They were really good to me. And so we built a brand name. But, our inclination as people is to nowadays grab our phone and search for anything and not necessarily even ask the person sitting next to you if they know how to spell a word. You'll just Google the word, right? So nowadays it's search first. And with that being the mindset of the consumer, that's where you have to go. And so you need to put yourself in a position where you are where the eyeballs are going to be.
So now this ties perfectly into what you do with FirmFlex, which again, everyone watching this has to go check out FirmFlex. It's one of the only choices to really stay accountable with your social media. But I want to tie this to Google Ads because there's what I call, what in economics they call it positive externalities, right? So there's a ripple effect from Google Ads. Ripple effect number one is referrals, okay? Absolutely. The next is the search term data that you get on exactly what people are typing in, not the theory from the keyword planner, exactly what people type in and your conversion rate on those keywords. So you can create content to piggyback off that. But third is the big one, and that is the pixel. The best way to target a bottom of funnel market segment in any industry is through search, is through Google Ads, right? It's the most bottom of funnel search. And if you pixel all of that traffic, even if you get a 5-to-1 ROI on your Google Ads, how can someone leverage the Facebook pixel on their landing pages? How do you leverage it? And how can this create what I call the multi-channel multiplier?
Right. So one of the wonderful things about using cross traffic between different platforms is that you're able to really sort of send them messaging based on what their interest was on your website. So as we develop our content on our website, we look for things that are engaging with people. So if a person is on our website and they, like, for example, on my website, let's talk about a DUI person with a commercial driver's license. Obviously, they're a professional driver for a living. And so they're focused on the impact of a DUI on a person who's a professional driver. Subsequent to their visit to my website, I can then serve them sponsored content on Facebook that allows them to answer questions that they might not even know that they had. That drives them back to my website to show that I am certainly the person that they should be calling. It's very rare that for bigger ticket purchases, in the thousands of dollars, that someone makes a split-second decision. I mean, we're not buying Snickers bars here, where you can make a decision, walk out of the store with a $1.50 Snickers bar. People have to get financing. They have to run it by their family members. They have to make sure they have the room on their credit card and the like. So what you want to do is you want to capture them into your audience and then continue to market to them when they're off of your site. You can do one of the wonderful things that we do is the minute that they've been on our site, if they haven't converted by a form fill or submitting their information, the next thing they'll see for the next 2 weeks is going to be just a carousel ad of reviews of us so that they can say, okay, hey, hiring these people has positive social value. And there's those social signals can be repurposed. So we take our Google reviews, we make them into image ads on Facebook, serve them up, and then when they click on that image ad, it brings them back to our website. So we're really using all different parts of the conversion funnel in our Facebook retargeting. And that's one of the wonderful things that you can do. And I do want to talk about this. It must have been like 12 or 13 years ago that we were doing really well one summer, and I said, let's see what happens if I turn off pay-per-click. We were ranking really well organically, and we were getting business. And I said, let's take 2 months and just pause everything. and see what happens. And what happened is that our retained leads went down, and we were still seeing a 5-to-1 return on other areas of marketing, but we were not getting as many visits. And the visits, what we attributed to was when you have your pay-per-click ad running and also on the page, you've got your organic listing, you control more of that screen real estate. You know, if I have 100 fish in the water and I have 2 lines in the water versus 1, the possibility of me landing that fish is going to be greater. So I want to own as many of the pieces of that page as possible. So I would love to be in the ad block. I'd love to be on the maps. And obviously I want to be in the organic listings. And I even want to be in the suggested searches down at the bottom. I want them to see my name for DUI lawyer. I want them to see J. Ruane reviews in that suggested search topic. I want to own as much as that page as I can to possibly get those clients to call us.
Wow. Yeah. And that is domination mentality right there. I mean, that is the way to think of it totally. And back on the multi-channel topic of pixeling your landing pages so that you can then track the browser essentially history and the travel of people to future websites to show them retargeting ads. Another thing that is interesting that I find with PPC, the number one thing that makes PPC hard, I believe, is number one is obviously cost, but second to cost, I believe, is trust. The challenge with a PPC lead versus a well-nurtured lead or a referral lead, I've noticed, is trust is harder. And the reason that trust is harder is because it is such a bottom of funnel method to generate leads. So what I've found works great, in addition to putting the pixel, showing retargeting ads so that you can push testimonials to them to build trust, another thing which ties into FirmFlex again is, and this sounds so simple, is add them as friends manually on Facebook. Have someone on your team or a lawyer or whoever's doing it. If you're a smaller firm, especially do it if you're the lawyer. And if you have inspiring, engaging content, like Jay and we're very active on social. We're posting a lot of stuff every week. Jay probably 2 or 3 times me, and I thought I was killing it. I think I might be a little more intense on stories, but I think you're more intense on organic than I am, probably 5 times. But nonetheless, what I've learned is if you have a accountability system set up for your organic social posts and you friend request someone who just became a lead, and they see your stories and your posts and who you are as a human being, I mean, it is like absolutely insane. So we've made it a protocol when lawyers reach out to us is we add them on LinkedIn. I personally add them on Facebook so they see my stories. I write my goals every morning. I read my gratitudes out loud. I do consistent behaviors where they're like, oh, wait, he's a human being too. He's not just some lead company that should I trust them? He's a human being. He's putting himself out there. So how have you leveraged your organic social to piggyback off of lead sources that perhaps maybe aren't as warm in your lead funnel?
Right. Well, I mean, the reality is at the end of the day, people connect with people. You know, we're tribal animals, and we want to connect with people that make us feel good about ourselves. And so by putting out a positive message on social media, it just is yet another signal to the consumer that they can trust us, right? Because we go to the same restaurants, we drive the same streets, we're local. I mean, at the end of the day, people do like to hire a local lawyer because they think there's some value in having somebody who's local to them. And so I post pictures of me in my community. Something coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a scholarship contest on social, not for link building, but just to build brand in my local hometown. You know, I'm doing things that put me out there that just make me an approachable person. And that happens when I'm at the supermarket. People say, hey, you're that lawyer. And they know who I am. And so now they're searching me out. And quite frankly, I'm not necessarily the right lawyer for everybody, but I do know a lot of lawyers who can tackle a lot of different areas. And I'm happy to make those referrals because one hand washes the other. You know, so if I can be seen as the type of person that they feel comfortable approaching, then they're more likely to engage with my brand when they need me or recommend my brand to somebody else. So I want to be approachable. And that's the benefit of utilizing social, is that it opens you up. Calling a lawyer is intimidating. Calling a lawyer is scary because it means you have a problem you can't fix yourself. It's like, it's at the end of the day, it's admitting that you can't solve something, and it's an ego. It hurts your ego to have to call in a professional. So we want to reduce those hurdles, reduce that friction, and make people say, well, I'm just calling a friend of mine who can help me solve a problem. Just like when you call your neighbor who's got a lawnmower or a weed whacker that you need. You don't have a problem doing that, because you have that relationship. We're using max scale to develop those relationships with a lot of people.
Man, some great points there. And a big mindset shift that I just want to hit on real quick is the fact that Jay, he's going after his target market. Yeah, he dominates DUI in his state. He's one of the biggest players in the entire state. He's omnipresent within that niche. But listen to what he's saying. He's not saying, well, I only show any piece of content I ever release to people who are going through a DUI. That is it. I will never be seen by any other human being. This is my target market. It's not how he's thinking. He's thinking from an expansive viewpoint of, hey, I'm going to get attention. I'm going to be liked. I'm going to be understood in my market. And I'm going to get some leads that I can't serve in practice areas I don't want. But the brand wave is way more important than constantly being scared. Oh, am I marketing to the wrong market? Because in that hesitation, you lose all of the expansive multiplier effects of actually building a brand.
Well, let's think about this, right, Bill? Let me give you an example of something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. Say you are a young lawyer now, you're 26, 27, you're just starting your practice out, and you think you want to practice family law. There's probably a small portion of the population that's 26, 27 that have gotten married that are looking to get divorced. But there's a larger population that aren't even married yet. But you can make yourself ubiquitous among that decade of people. So you can decide, hey, you know what? I am going to be everything to the people that are age 20 to 30. And that's going to be my audience, right? And so you can find them on Snap, you can find them on TikTok, you can find them on Instagram, LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can pick your platform, right? Or you pick all of those platforms, but you limit your age demographic to just the 20 to 30-year-olds. And then next year, you limit it to 21 to 30, 21 to 31. Then the following year, 22 to 32. And you make that decade of people your audience. And you can go so far to say, I'm going to make my decade be 20 to 30-year-old women. Then next year, 21 to 31-year-old women, 22 to 32-year-old women. And you can say, look, there's a million places out there that people can go. But in this one group of people, I am everything. I'm everywhere for them. And guess what? When they're in their 30s and 40s, when they need your services, the inexpensive brand building you did in their 20s are now, they're not going to think of any other lawyer because you're going to be the one person that they always remember. So you can define your audience and then say, I'm going to pick them out and I'm going to roll with them for the rest of my career. So you always pick up people maybe a couple of years younger than you, because that way as you age out 30, 40, 50, there's people behind you. You don't want to be 40, 47 like myself and targeting people in their 60s, because 20 years from now, they'll be in their 80s and I'll still be working. I don't necessarily want them as a client. So look behind you, find a knowledgeable cohort you can get onto, grab them, and inexpensively own their mindset, right? Own their brand. Be the brand that owns that demo for the next 40 years by narrowly focusing on that particular area.
Jay, thank you so much for your wisdom. Everybody, I hope you got a tremendous amount of value from this video. If you're looking for a more integrated solution and actually starting to take action on your organic social posting like Jay and I do, go to firmflex.com. And yes, that's his amazing.
Getfirmflex.com.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Getfirmflex.com.
Yeah, FirmFlex is too expensive, right?
Yeah.
We're going to buy it out soon. Yeah, go to getfirmflex.com and they have, I believe, under $100 as an entry-level offer for you guys to just stay accountable with your organic social. So definitely check that out, because if you're going to choose us for your PPC, if you're going to choose anyone to run your PPC, believe me, you need multiplier effects to compound the results of your ROI on Google Ads, and social is an amazing way to build trust. So thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Stay great, and we'll see you in the next episode.